David, you're back. You're back from your holiday at long last. How you doing, mate?
Oh, not bad, Hamish. Nice and refreshed after a couple of weeks in the sun. Absolutely loved it, and then obviously I had to come back. You forget about that bit when you go away. Come back to this lovely weather. Just looking outside the window now, it's pouring a rain. It's freezing outside. It's freezing in my house. Magic, can't beat it.
I don't think you've got that problem, Scott.
No, I can see David picked up a tan like mine as well. So we must have had a good time. Under the umbrella.
Maybe a bit of redness. Certainly no tanning.
Brilliant. Can you beat it?
It's good to have you back, mate. Scott, you're safely in Australia, unlike a certain Serbian tennis player.
Yeah, I wouldn't say safely. It's starting to get about here as well, guys. Now Omicron is upon us, and well and truly getting around. That's doing the rounds for say. But yeah, I guess I am quite lucky in the sense that I'm in the country and someone flew 24 hours and then had to get off again. So yeah, a bit of controversy in the last 24 hours here for sure.
Yeah, you speak about Omicron getting around, and you were certainly getting around last week. You were turning back the years last week. You were playing for Gold Coast Knights, who people will know that's your team that you manage. So you were managing. You were also playing in the last 16 of the FFA Cup against Melbourne Victory, who are basically the best team in Australia at the moment. They're certainly top of the A-League. And you were live on BT Sport as well. I could not believe my luck when I got up about 10:30, turned on the telly, and I saw Scott McDonald running about. I won't say your age, Scott, but still playing. Excellent.
Well, still was playing. That was a first and last for me the other night. So, yeah, nice way to finish off, I suppose. It was good. It wasn't planned, but in terms of we had 2.5 weeks spell to get a team ready. It was off season for us for the last 6 weeks with semi-professional players. So we knew it was going to be a tough ask in terms of physically for our players, and with a few injury threats going into the game. I had pre-registered just because of the COVID stuff that was going on, border closures in Australia. So I was free to play. So there was 7 subs, so I might as well put myself on there. And just it happened that it was probably the right timing in the game for me to come on and try and calm everyone down, which I like to think it did to a degree. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get over the line. But thoroughly enjoyed it. Buzzing about it. Still, club's delighted. Biggest game in the club's history in terms of to reach the last 16. So for me, it's just the beginning, and hopefully for the players as well. But lots of positives to take. So, but to say I'll be putting them back on again, I don't think so. The only way I'll be doing that is in training if they need a number.
So you might look like you had it.
Yeah, you might have told Celtic you could still play, Scott. We've been cutting about with no strikers over the course of December.
But that's the thing, he wasn't even playing up top, David. He was kind of playing a bit deeper, weren't you, Scott?
You did play a lot
role, didn't you? Yeah, I played in the middle of the pitch. Just to give them a bit of calmness, that was all, to be honest with you. I can still run about a little bit, guys, even though I did no warm-up. I just I had my coach's shorts on and I almost entered the pitch with a different colour pair of shorts, and thankfully for everyone that I had the other ones underneath, and I just whisked them off. So everyone was a bit surprised when they thought I was doing something else at the time. But yeah, it was interesting. It was quite surreal in terms of being a coach, trying to coach and play. I don't know how some of the old guys used to do it, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of decisions to be had and some things that you don't see. But yeah, I won't be doing that again, I don't think, guys. But all the same, it was good. And the boys actually respected that I was going to play. They wanted me to play. So I asked them first before I actually did it, because the last thing you want is them thinking, oh, he thinks he can do it better than us. It wasn't a case of that. It was just to help them out on the night because of the legs and actually we haven't got everyone in the building at the moment that we've actually signed. So, yeah. But anyway, let's talk Celtic. Let's not talk about me.
Let's talk Celtic then. Well, a player that has left Celtic today, it's been confirmed, Ewan Henderson has moved to Hibernian. He's going on loan at first. I assume that means he won't be able to play against us for the rest of the season. Then in the summer, when his Celtic contract is up, he'll sign a 3-year deal with Hibernian. His manager at Hibs will be Sean Maloney, who he played under for the Celtic development side. And obviously, David, his brother Liam also played with Hibs a few years ago, famously put in that corner for David Gray in the Scottish Cup final, which is probably my favourite game ever, not containing Celtic. Is that a good move, David, for all parties?
Terrific for Henderson. I think that's a brilliant move going to Hibs. And so at this time as well, in such an exciting new era with Sean Maloney heading over, there's so much excitement at Easter Road just now. And Henderson he's such a talent. I always liked him. You know, I can totally understand the deal from Celtic's perspective. I think they want to be at a place with this squad that's unfortunately just maybe a bit beyond Henderson's reach as a player. So I can understand it, especially his contract being up in 6 months. Yeah. And for Hibs, they're getting a really good player, a really exciting young player that has so much potential. I also thought technically Henderson was very good. He has a good presence about him as well, I think. He can maybe get a wee bit stronger for me, but he does have... He's a tall boy, you know, he's a good presence about him. And... You know, when you think to some of the loan spells he had at Ross County and Dunfermline, for me, never really managed to kick on in those periods, which maybe would have helped his Celtic career. But this move going to Hibs, I think it's brilliant for everyone. I really do, and all the best to him. He's a good talent.
Yeah, he only played 19 minutes this season under Ange. They were all against Real Betis. That's actually when he scored, his only goal he ever scored for Celtic. Same question to you, Scott. It's not a player that we're really going to miss too much without being too harsh, and it seems like a good move for everyone.
No, I think the timing's right for Ewan now. He's been at the club a long time. He just hasn't had the breaks to get into the team. It's as simple as that. I think you talk about you need that little bit of luck at time as well, guys, and the timing has to be right. And he burst onto the scene. I remember when he burst on the scene with Brendan Rodgers being the manager. Did ever so well with a couple of injuries that were going on at that point. And I remember him playing at Tynecastle in Neil Lennon's first game, actually. I remember that.
That's right, it was really good.
And he played very, very well that night. I think he actually might have played to get in the first goal. But, you know, you need that little bit of luck in terms of the manager that you have. And it's not slating Neil, but Neil just didn't fancy him. So from that, it's probably taken him a little bit of time. I think it's perfect that Sean's taken him because he'll build him back up. Because Sean knows him, he's had him as in the youth squad at Celtic. So it's someone that Sean believes in for one, which will give you in confidence, and someone that he knows. So I think it's a really, really good move for all parties in that sense. And I think we'll probably see him kick on again, David. You know, like you said, there is potential there, and I think he needs to go to the right person and the right club, and I think this is probably the right one for him.
I think, you know, he'll have sadness, of course, leaving Celtic after so many years at the club, but I think he'll be feeling also brilliant about this move. I really do. I think like you say, Scott's got potential to really, really let a spark in his career. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does there.
Hopefully he goes on and does well, ideally not against us. He reminds me a bit of Dylan McGeoch. I don't know if you guys agree about what would it be, about a decade ago. Similar kind of pedigree, similar type of players. Maybe you could say Henderson had done slightly more at Celtic. McGeoch hasn't exactly really kicked on. I think he was at Sunderland. I think he's now at Aberdeen. He's done okay. Do you think Henderson has a higher ceiling than someone like McGeoch, Scott?
I think if he's played in the right position, yeah. I think Dylan actually ended up becoming more of a defensive-sided player. I think he was more attacking one when he was at Celtic, Dylan. Ewan, there's no question he's an attacking player. He finds pockets of space really well. He gets on the half turn. He's very comfortable in taking the ball in tight areas. And I think the way Sean's going to want to play, I think he's going to suit it fantastically. So it's just about being able to get him on the ball, getting the right service, and actually getting what Sean wants at that club. And if they can, then I think he'll play well, yeah.
Have you heard much about Sean Maloney, Scott, with regards to being, you know, quite a highly rated coach / manager?
Yeah, look, Sean's always been a very clever individual. You know, I don't think he'd mind me saying, he's very introvert, he's very deep thinker. He's actually on the pro license with me at the moment with the SFA, and obviously the learnings that he's had from all the managers that he's had, he's had. I'm very envious of that. Actually, he worked under Martin O'Neill for a long period. Both at Celtic and Villa. Comes back and works with Gordon. Gordon makes him into the best player in Scottish football. Unbelievable relationship with Gordon, done well for him in Scotland. Then he goes down to Wigan and works for Roberto very, very closely. He ends up becoming his captain. So if you speak to any manager about Sean Maloney, they'll all sing his praises to the hill, in terms of professionalism, technically what a player and how he thinks about the game. So Sean's always been, I think, very assured of what he wants, even when he was at Celtic. And I think that was sort of, in my opinion, I think that's why he left, because he has a way in, an idea of what he wants to do. And I think he was getting sort of held back probably at Celtic. He felt that way and he needed to go and spread his wings. Roberto then took him on again in Belgium, and that's an unbelievable learning curve in terms of the elite players and what he was asked to do in that job itself. And I think he's more than ready now to be a head coach, and he knows he gets players. As much as I say he's the introvert, I think he knows still how to speak to you on a one-to-one basis. He's very, very good, and he'll know when to jump in and jump out, and that's why he's got Gary. And Gary's attention to detail as a coach who I've had, teammates with Gary as well, but more recent times was my coach at Partick Thistle as well. And I think Gary sleeps with the ball. He just never shuts up about the game, and he just loves the game. So I think that was a really shrewd appointment from Sean as well. I expect them to do really well. I really do, because I think they get the younger generation as well in terms of the player and what they like. So it would just be about recruitment now, getting the right players in the building that are going to suit what they want to do. We all know that, guys. You're only as good as your players. So it's going to be about what they bring in the building for them to have some sort of success.
And on that point, they actually, as well as bringing in Ewan Henderson, they actually signed a player from our Conference League opponents, Bodo Glimt, in the last couple of days. Now, I don't think the guy had actually been playing with Bodo Glimt. I think he'd been out on loan at a second-tier Norwegian side, but his scoring record is really impressive, and I think he's maybe 19, 20. So it seems like they're signing well. This isn't a Hibs channel, by the way. We should just point that out, because we're chatting non-stop about Hibs, David, but it is quite an interesting little dynamic, I think, there at Hibs, and just to see how they're going to do over the next 6 months. Oh,
there's massive interest in Sean Maloney's managerial career as for a lot of Celtic fans, if not all of us. I know it's very sort of looking into the future, probably a bit premature, but a lot will probably be looking at him as a hopeful Celtic manager one day, just with that education he's had so far. But this is his first big gig, isn't it, really? If you think about it, it's his first main man role, and it's a big one. Hibs have lofty ambitions to be up there challenging with Celtic and Rangers, so he's got a big job in his hands here, and I'm excited to see how Henderson gets on with them. I'm really excited to see how Sean does as a manager, and get more of a look at what his style of play actually is, because I don't think we will really know that until we see his team.
Well, we'll see them on January the 17th, won't we? Celtic's first game back, which should be interesting. We got a further update today from Anthony Joseph at Sky Sports, saying basically that Celtic have now switched their focus to outgoings. Now, I don't think that necessarily means that we're not going to sign any further players, but it does seem like getting fringe players out is now the kind of main aim and the priority at Celtic. Seems like Liam Shaw is going to be heading out on loan, probably to Motherwell, although St Johnstone have also been interested. The club are also open to offers on Barkas and Bolingoli, while Asaze Urigidi has also been spoken about as an outgoing loan. Is it important we get these players out this month, Scott? The players who aren't playing cause a bit of a kind of inconvenience sometimes with regards to dynamics and stuff like that?
They can do at times, but look, at times when they're there, you actually don't see them as well. They actually get put probably to the side a little bit, and they're with the reserves more, and they're put out of the environment. Depends on the nature of the player that you're dealing with. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that can make matters worse when you do that. It's going to be interesting to see if there is any bites on some of these players. The likes of Barkas, I think it's going to be so difficult because probably in terms of the wages that he's on. You sign a player for £5-6 million. He's not going to be on biscuits. So, in terms of what he's going to want to go somewhere on loan, I think that's going to be the challenge for Celtic to try and get someone to take a nibble on that, unless they're going to want to take, some of the wages on themselves. I think any win is a win at the moment for Celtic with the likes of him and Bolingoli and the likes. There is a couple of players that you would like to see probably go out on loan as well. But Celtic are heavily linked with so many players at the moment. It's crazy. Like the squad, yes, it needs, sort of reinforced. But I don't know how many you really want to make it too difficult in terms of the players that are going to play. It's always good to have many choices, but you don't want too many either to cause you headaches. And again, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Ayeti as well. Is he going to stay or go? Now that
we're just probably a little bit light, aren't we, up top to let him go?
Well, are we? I mean, are we not just waiting for an injured player to come back before we're pretty good again? I mean, if you're looking at
Giakoumakis is, you can't call him a kind of a reliable choice right now, can you? With his injury,
we signed him in the summer, and he's not been signed to do nothing. We still have I still have a hope, guys, that when Giakoumakis is actually fit and able to play games, he can make an impact for us. I think he's been, there's a stigma attached to him because he missed this penalty against Livingston. As far as I'm concerned, when he back the guy, he's only really just in the door. He's had a bit of time of it, and for me, when he comes back, we've got him, we've got Kyogo, and we've got Maeda who can play up front. You don't need 4 strikers if Ange is only going to really look to play one. As far as I'm concerned.
Look, I agree. I think, again, it will come down to wages. It always does. If someone's willing to take on board and flip the bill or split it with Celtic to move these players on. That's the tough thing. And Celtic always want a decent figure to make it work. They don't want to have too heavy a loss on certain types of players. But some work, some don't. I think probably now is the time that if it's not now, it's going to be in the summer that Ayeti leaves. For me, I don't see how he has a future at the club now. I think that's clear. And like Dave's touched on, you've just signed Giakoumakis in the summer. He's Ange is signing as well. But from that, I think you're going to pick him over Ayeti every day of the week because you have to justify it. So with that being said, and you've got Maeda and Kyogo as well, who's played up top and played his best football there at times. You've got the choices there as long as they stay fit, and that's been the challenge up to this point.
See, just on the sorry, on you go.
Obviously, Ayeti being fit is the big issue at the moment as well, because I think he's still out with his hamstring injury and probably will be for a wee while yet. So that may actually play into it with regards to not being able to sell an injured player. Sorry, David, on you go.
I was just going to say, just on that report we're talking about and how Celtic are looking to switch their focus on the outgoings. From an outsider that's never worked at a football club, to me, it would seem to be a case of, well, it's all right you switching your focus, but you can't force bids on these players. You can't make a club bid for your player. They have to like that player. Just wondering, Scott, on your experience as a player and even now, maybe your early days as a manager, what can clubs actually do to increase interest in a player, especially a struggling one?
They go and put it out there. They go and tout you about. And they'll get agents and they'll give them mandates to go and try and sell this player. That's what will generally happen. If it's not, this is how agents make their money, because they'll go to clubs and go, "What do you want out?" Or, "We want such and such. We want Jimmy out this window. Can you do something?" "Well, I've got this, and this club. You give me a mandate for him, and I'll go to these clubs for you on your behalf."
Right.
And it's kind of like, well, hush, hush, right? Well, we'll do that, sort of, but don't tell anyone kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then obviously that will happen and the agent will get, front up and go, well, the other agent that's the agent of the player, right, do you want to do this deal? Okay, let's get it done. Sometimes the player doesn't want to do it. Sometimes
what about the wages as well?
Sometimes a couple say, well, you're going to go and train with the youth team. We're going to keep you. There'll be games always going on. There's always, every day you walk in the building, there's a game getting played. If you're in those situations, sometimes they're amicable, sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're really bad. It just depends on the player, depends on the money, depends on how long he's got on his deal, and depends how desperate the club are to get him at the door. So there's so many different variables. But again, you talk about for the player and being in those, variables. I've seen a player, being locked out of his locker, because he wouldn't leave. Like you couldn't get into his locker, because they wanted rid of him. So there's always little games that get played. Boy, he couldn't train with the strength and conditioning coach because he's now not part of the first team group. So there's always games getting played. I'm not to say that that's going on at Celtic at the moment, but there is ways and means of, if you really want to get rid of someone, then these games will get played. It's just how strong and in the mind the player is sometimes to just go and persist and go, no, I'm not moving. I'm staying. I'm taking all my money. And that's the side that sometimes fans don't see as well. In terms of, there is a contract being put there. You have to honour it. The players have signed it. That's what they've signed for. They want their money. It's as simple as that. And people will say, well, it shouldn't be like that. If you want to leave, where's the next one coming? Is it the same amount of money? There's a lot of variables, guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, Mikey Johnson, obviously, as well. People have mentioned that they'd like to see him going out on loan. One for me would be Adam Montgomery. I think he's a player with real talent. I think he's a real raw player who has clear ability on the ball, takes care of it really well at times. I think he needs to work on his final ball, needs to work on his passing, and I think a loan move out to another top flight side in Scotland would be ideal for him for the rest of the season. I think he's in a bit of limbo at the moment, far too good and probably too old for the B team, and not quite good enough certainly to be a Celtic starter at the moment, and even less so now that we've signed the likes of Maeda and Hatate, who can both, I think, play on the left-hand side. Speaking of which, 3 Japanese signings, Reo Hatate, Dyson Maeda and Yosuke Ideguchi have all joined since we last spoke to you guys. So I'll give you both about a minute or so to tell me, who are you most excited about out of the 3 of them? David, you can go first.
Well, for me, it's the top scorer, Dyson Maeda. He's the one that's been getting all the headlines really out of Japan, hasn't he? Really like the look of his package. He seems to have that rare combination of pace and power, which I think will be so exciting to see in the Premiership. Not going to be a cakewalk. You have to remember the adaptation that it will take for these players from Japan. They're not all going to come in and play like Kyogo just because they're Japanese and from the J League. It's a hell of a move in terms of cultural differences, lifestyle differences. There's all that to take into consideration. But for me, Maeda is the most exciting one, just based on the package he has. He's going to be up against it in Scotland. I think the Scottish teams, the one thing they do well is defend. I think we're a vastly underrated country for how well our teams defend. I think they're exceptional defenders. So it's going to be a bigger challenge, I think, than what he's used to in Japan. It's going to be a more stifling challenge against Scottish football defences, and I can't wait to see how his game competes against that.
Yeah, I think he's the obvious one to go for. Scott, are you going to be obvious?
No, I just call me Gucci. the wee guy. Technically, I've seen bits of him. He arrives in the box late, and he's another one that can strike from distance as well.
As he showed against Australia a few years ago.
Yeah, I know, and I know I've seen that one. I've seen that one actually live when I watched it, but I didn't realise obviously at that point who he was. But obviously now you're going, oh, that's him. But he's a guy that can arrive in the box late. Again, another one where, are they all going to play? It's great because I would like to think they're probably going to, but who do they replace as well? So it's great competition for places. I'm actually going to be the opposite to you, and I know Maeda said it as well in his press conference, or it might have been actually Hatate, about it's going to take a while because of cultural differences and that. But we've seen with the likes of Nakamura, Kyogo's come in. They've just unleashed. So I don't think these guys are going to have a problem coming to Scottish football. The way that they can play, the intensity that they play out in Japan, the technical ability that they play, and they're fearless. They'll run through brick walls. We've seen that with Kyogo already in terms of the physical presence. You don't get to play for Ange Postecoglou if you can't do those types of things. Those high intensity, pressings and high intensity runs. So all three of them are going to bring that, which is exciting for the club. I really hope they buy into actually the culture as well. I think it's always what I will say is the Japanese culture and the personality of them individually. They're all very respectful types of characters. They always are. But I hope they bring their own characters, that youthfulness. We've seen that a little bit in my time with Koki Mizuno. He was a little bit younger than obviously Naka. Naka was a bit more of an adult, type responsible, professional. Not to say Mizuno wasn't, but he had a laugh with the lads and tried to speak the language. So I think that's important that they don't get all put into the side and there's four of them just sitting in a corner, or the translator and whatever else. That and look, Ange is not stupid, but they integrate them. They've got to integrate them, because that can cause, now with one you're okay, because one has to just do his bit. He might be quiet. You'll have his translator there, like Naka had Makoto, his name was at the time, and they just were joint at the hip. They went everywhere together, but it was cool, and Makoto would have a banter, with the boys as well, because he was doing his university in Scotland. But it's important that that's just off the pitch, that they get that right. I think that's going to be key to the success of these players as well, not just what they can do on it, but can they integrate with the players that are already there and create that team unity.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Did you notice a difference in Nakamura at all when Mizuno signed?
No, it was like his little brother. He just used to shake his head at him, because Koki was playful. He was just had a bit more youthfulness, playfulness about him. Again, technically very good player. Again, these guys are fearless. They've come in, they might be slight, in physicality and stature sometimes, but they take the knocks. They'll just get up. I don't have any fear for these players at all coming to the Scottish football whatsoever. I think they're a level above. I really do. And I think it's a snippet price for, and then the ages of them as well. This is really, really good, good tactics from Celtic, I think, in terms of what they can get for these players kicking on. I think they're going to burst on the scene and do so well. I think there's going to be some big money attracting these players in the future for sure.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't remember a time where I've been so excited about some new Celtic signings. Maybe it was Scott McDonald back in the summer of 2006.
Please stop with being so nice to me, mate.
So you were an Aussie. You played for Celtic. So why don't we chat about Martin Boyle then, just briefly? Who's
he doesn't mind me saying that.
A fake Aussie, an Aussie he's from Arbroath or Montrose or somewhere like that, isn't he? Over in the
That's
East
a
Coast.
capital, Australia, is it not?
Yeah, brilliant. Him and Suter as well. So John Suter as well, or Harry, is it? Who plays for Australia. Actually, Martin's done really well for Australia. He's been so impressive, and it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because I would have said at the start of the season, if Martin Boyle had to come up, I would have been like all over it for Celtic, thinking he's been brilliant for Hibs up to this point. And again, he's been brilliant. But where do you fit him in? Is it just a signing for the sake of signing him, or is it one where he's going to improve the squad already, or he's going to actually play? Depends on what Martin wants to do. I'm imagining that there is interest from the Far East now, the Middle East, because he has that Australian passport, and the finances, the riches that you can get in these countries. It's a lot of money, so that could be a head turn as well for the boy.
Yeah, I just wonder whether we could justify $3 million, and it might be over $3 million, never know, for him. Not because he's not a good enough player, but just like Scott's saying, we've got Lila Bada there that we've invested heavily in. We've got James Forrest, who isn't going anywhere soon. You need to throw Martin Boyle into that mix for $3 million plus. I don't know. I think there maybe could be other priorities for me.
I'm actually not massively against it. I think he's a really good and underrated player. Martin Boyle. And I mean, the obvious comparison is Johnny Hayes a few years ago. I think Martin Boyle's probably a better player than Johnny Hayes. And Johnny Hayes was a decent enough Celtic player. He was never an amazing Celtic player, but he to use that phrase, did a job on numerous occasions. And I think Martin Boyle could be the perfect guy to almost... I imagine we'd played a game on a Thursday night and say Jota or James Forrest were completely knackered, and you could throw in Martin Boyle on a Sunday.
It's easy to say that. If he's not playing 4 matches, that doesn't happen. I mean, like, it's all good. It's good.
I've been playing too much Football Manager. That's what you're saying.
Is, you couldn't turn around to Martin, but you couldn't turn around to Martin Boyle and say, right, Martin, if you come here, just think of the Thursday nights when James is tired and Leo's tired.
You wouldn't say that to him, though. You would just keep it a secret.
That's your plan for him, is it? No, I don't think so.
No, look, you need consistent. For a guy who plays week in, week out, you're not going to get the same level of performance. And he's been the main man at Hibs. It's hard. It's hard for these players. We've seen it time and again from Celtic and Rangers ends. When you bring players sometimes from other teams in Scotland, if they're playing consistently, that's when you see the success of that player. It's very rare. And look, you talk about Johnny Hayes, but Johnny Hayes became a left back at Celtic. He was a goal scorer and a left winger at Aberdeen. He was one of their main assets going forward. Became a left back at Celtic.
So we'll make Martin Boyle a right back.
The thing is, the players aren't stupid though, are they? Like, Martin Boyle would look at Celtic and he'd know himself. Where's my minutes coming from? Where's my regular minutes coming from? He's got offers potentially in the Middle East, like you're saying. The money on offer there could sway him. I don't know. I think he'd be the right player at the wrong time for me.
Never know. I mean, it would bolster the squad, though, right? It's a positive if it happens. It's not. There's nothing negative. Even though we're having a bit of banter here, I think it's still a positive if he wants to sign.
I don't think it will happen, though. I just don't. I don't think it's one we'll do. I think it's maybe just paper talk with that one. But I've remembered your two's opinions for future when Martin Boyle's leading us to the title. We'll just clip that up and get that played so folk can laugh at you.
Big Thursday night performances. Look forward to those.
Sunday he'll be sitting out the Thursday and playing on the Sunday. See, you missed the whole point of it, David.
Sorry,
just briefly, Johnny Kenny as well, young Irish striker. I think Sligo Rovers. He's playing for. I think it seems like Celtic are going to sign him, and imminently. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a big announcement because he's probably going to go into the B team, or David may be out on loan straight away.
Yeah, potentially, according to the reports in Ireland. I think there's been quite long discussions over this deal. I think they've agreed the fee for, I think it's 125, around that £1,000. I think they'll get another 6-figure sum when he reaches a certain number of appearances. And according to the Irish Independent, they've managed to get I think it's between 10 and 15% sell-on fee in as well. So I think Sligo have done quite well out of it, considering what players from Ireland go for. 11 goals last season, but he's... which isn't numbers that would make your eyes pop out, but he is highly regarded. He does seem to have a bit of dynamism about him. However, I think that's, personally for me, looking at it as one Celtic are looking at for the long term. He's only 18. If we're talking about proper step-ups, going from the League of Ireland to what's expected at Celtic, there's an idea that he could be loaned out. Maybe not the worst idea. Could take a couple of loan spells before he's Celtic quality. You never know. You have to give these players time to adapt and find out what they need to perform in Scottish football. So, yeah, it'll be a interesting signing if Celtic pull it off, but not one I would expect imminent results from.
Yeah, we'll have a full kind of insight video on Johnny Kenny tomorrow. Ewan sat down with an Irish reporter earlier in the week, so we'll get a good insight in him as part of the big video tomorrow. And we'll leave it there, guys. I think we're back next week, back into the swing of things. We'll have a Hibs game to kind of preview. We'll still be a good 4 or 5 days away, but we can properly get into that stage. I take it we're missing football in Scotland quite badly over the last 10 days or so, Scott?
Yeah, we're missing it here as well. We've had no games here due to COVID as well. So really looking forward to things just getting back in the swing, and hopefully fans as well. So that's a touchy subject at the moment as well, particularly in Scotland. So let's hope to see them back in the stands.
Excellent. We'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for watching this. Please subscribe to the channel if you've not done it yet. We're motoring now. I think we're 23,500 subs. So kind of all roads are leading to 25k. We're back tomorrow.